Good evening. I'm Yiannis Melanitis, speaking from Athens, Greece. And the idea I would like to present today is a project called Leda Melanitis. It refers actually to a butterfly. This butterfly originally lives in Asia or some places also of Africa. And the important thing of this species for me is that it is named Melanitis, which is my surname. I will explain later how it works to make a work about this specific butterfly, and explain some coincidences that are really important on this process. Here are the butterflies of the first breed in my home, in my lab. I would like to start to refer to me as a painter. Initially, I will start explaining the whole thing from the idea that it works for me as a painter, and it's theory that gives me the guidance to proceed in a work. I work with theory, and theory leads me to a certain artwork. So let's see here, for example, one of the most famous quotes of Leonardo, "O miseria umana, di quante cose per danari ti fai servo," "O human misery, to how many things you are enslaved just for the money." I just put this small quote to show that for a painter who uses science, for an artist using science, sometimes the procedure, the paraphernalia, are not totally, let's say, verificated. They're not totally the artist knows that he might use some things of a special technique or a very brand new idea that is just a support to his conceptual idea, to reaching his purpose. So in this drawing of Leonardo, we can see on down, you can see the scripture. It's of course written. It can be read on a mirror easily, but the idea is that Leonardo puts machinery, puts the paraphernalia of science in a critique. So I'm a painter. We have to start from this, and also let's see another famous painter, which is Piero di Cosimo, who uses this tiger butterfly in his painting on the feet of Venus. This wonderful painting is a scene of Venus, Mars, and a Cupid, and you can see the scarlet tiger moth butterfly on the right side of the picture. So why I'm referring also to Cosimo? Because Cosimo loved nature in its real sense, in its pure form. He didn't want to touch flowers or nature. He did not want to see nature get hurt from human intervention. And he never had a garden, let's say, cultivated as we're used to have. That's another work of mine. You can see the butterfly on the ear of Gaius Petronius. It's a portrait of Gaius Petronius, the last Roman philosopher. So the idea is a little by little to see how nature is hiding, and using forms that represent other forms. For example, this painting I made is the head of the hare is also a night butterfly. Or what is the strategy? What is the strategy of nature by this mimicking process? First of all, it uses a code. So the artist has to start from something like a text or a code, and then let's see where it might follow. So an artist text in general, let's say, this is also a book I made, Scatologia Metaphysica. It's a book about writing all these things as a process to trying to define what is important for the artist and how he may use his paraphernalia in painting. So what is now the reference between text, between code and an organism? We find the first reference of this in Phaedrus, in Plato, in a very nice quote, where it says that it is really, really, I just translate, it is really, really tremendous in writing, Phaedrus, that that it resembles with painting. Why? Because the creatures of that scripture gives birth to have the shape of living organisms. But when you speak to them, they are silent. The same is with written language. So this is really important quote of Plato. Why? Because he separates writing from something alive. What is text is already dead. For Plato, it's really important to have someone alive in front of him to make dialectics. So let's see now the importance of text and the body, of text and the body as a text. The body as a text is the biological context we all know for biology. It's the genes. We can make a portrait of the artist, a new, unique portrait of the artist, but we have to conceptualize. We have to conceptualize, and the only rule we have between the code is information. So how do I start codifying myself into nature, to hide myself into nature? It's through information. And for example, Platonic ideas might be considered as informational contextual space, because Plato speaks about the ideas as a unique form with degradations, etc. So what is information in nature? Information is what is left when everything else has gone away. Let's say it in rough terms. We know from informational theory, from physics, especially Wheeler, it from bit, that something gets its existence if there's a bit denoting its presence. We also know that information never disappears. For example, in nature, this can be something like we pass information to a next generation. We are hiding inside nature by using our genome, but we pass it to another generation. And information is never really disappearing, because we have to release heat to destroy it. The problem is to destroy information. This is the problem of information theory. And of course, if we define information in the core, in the basic core of everything, of all our reference, we can see now that the text has to be organic, has to be something that is it is alive. The most famous example is James Joyce writing from the last chapter of Ulysses, for example, which is really a biological text in any means. If you can see here, this is the 18th chapter of Penelope. In this work, Ulysses, as we all know, James Joyce recreates the Homeric paradigm by making chapters where he uses a different technique to each chapter. One chapter is novel, the other is like an archive. The last one, the most important for him and for all of us, is the Penelope chapter, this one, which has no full stops. It's 2,500 words without full stops. So this is basically something like a biological text, because you can start reading from a certain point and stop, because everybody who is reading something has to get some breath in order to continue, but he indicates no commas or full stops. So the problem is that basically you can read different meanings in the same text. Every text has different meanings, but this one has really encoded so much information inside it, and also it represents the body of Penelope waiting for Ulysses on the bed, which this is very famous. The whole text is also a body. The resemblance with biological code is really very obvious. Anyone who uses biological text like this one can understand that there are certain codifications analogous to the text of James Joyce. So Joyce also in Finnegan's Wake as an artist used these hidden meanings, this hidden code inside the organic body of the text. Now, what is important for us is to understand, for example, that for many biologists, especially after Richard Dawkins, the body is not always something that consists a unique and individual character and has an individual character. It can be theoreticized and considered as a group of smaller living units, like the genes can be considered separate units that each one trying to achieve its goal, which is to pass to another generation. This is really important in order to leave ourselves outside the game, let's say, as an artist. I will explain later how all these ideas came to my mind when I realized this project. So for Joyce, our reference here is supporting the idea that the text is organic, the text is a body. These are the writings of James Joyce. You can see the way Finnegan's Wake was removed. In Finnegan's Wake, he removed whole phrases to remodel them. It's like a continuous mutation, actually. So what I want now to say after it is that I wanted to work with something like hiding myself inside nature and using information for it. It could be something that would arise as a surprise for me, because you can organize things, but you never know where the surprise is coming from. And this, for example, is a way to hide names in Roman period, the names of women written with letters one upon the other, so they make another construction. And also what interested me is that after Landauer, as Landauer, the physicist, posit information which we remembered to be, let's say, and we all have this notion, I think, that information is abstract, which is not the case, because information has always to be attached to something living, to an organism that lives and processes this information. Otherwise, there is no information. It cannot be exchanged and have a presence, really. So Landauer found this, made this famous statement that information is physical and needs something organic to proceed. So the Melanitis Leda project actually started when I saw this species, the Leda Melanitis, which accidentally has the same name. It was Linnaeus, the taxonomer, who gave this name in 1758, and he made the groups. You know, as a taxonomer, he had to put everything in order. So when I saw that it has the same name with me, I decided to make this exchange of information in the deep sense, in the in the basic biological form of this butterfly. And eventually it came out to be the first artistic as a project of a hybrid animal using the genes of the artist inside the butterfly. So several ideas, technicalities were starting to arise because it's not so easy. You have to define which gene exactly would be proper. And actually, I didn't care so much about the technicality. The idea it was to make a hybrid butterfly because I wanted to share the common information and have a new breed that will carry also this part of me inside it. Of course, always in the lab, not in nature. So the idea, let me read it a little just to have an idea, because it's the core of the presentation. It's to breed transgenic butterflies containing a gene of human origin that acquire ectopic eyes. This is a way to find if your genes are working or not, let's say, okay? And these butterflies have some eyes on the wings, so the change in the ectopic eyes would be a reference that it was successful. The procedure was to generate an organism through a plasmid with egg injections, etc. So from the egg, we have the caterpillar and then the chrysalis, and a new transgenic butterfly was born, actually. From the first breed, I will show you later the images, you can have an idea, which was in my lab as I received this from the laboratory. From the first breed, just a few of them survived more days, let's say, after birth. So let me show you here, for example, the initial form is quite like that. Okay, so you have to take them, you will see it in the video, and put them on the branch of a branch of a tree. And they have to hang in order to get out a little some days later if the temperature is okay, because the smallest temperature change might change a lot on the lasting of life and everything, the size of the butterfly, etc. So I also conceived a neologism after it, which is ontogenetic art, which is art that changes the ontogenetic state of an organism, of an artwork, of course, because the body is an artwork. It has to be an ontological change to be considered ontogenetic art. What is really important is that Aristotle had defined this ontologic art from the beginning. Why? Because he says that the arts either act on the basis of nature and extend things beyond it. Epitelin is in Greek. So it's not exactly what you see or what you expect. It's something beyond it, unexpected. Or mimics. Mimicking is the most common way we understand art, but the epitelin, the other one, is really, really on the point of ontological art, I think. Epiteli also means that we have an ancient sculptor, okay, who sees the athlete. He's remodeling the athlete is remodeling his body through exercises, and then to make his body ideal in the Platonic sense. And then the artist is inspired from this image and goes back to marble or clay and makes a new body, which is a new form. Then the athlete sees the form of the artist, etc. So there's a dialectics between art and nature. And in a sense, we can say here that the quote of the famous English Oscar Wilde, that we all know, that we say art imitates nature. He posed the new question, if nature imitates art, which is the case here. We are now getting in the core of the biological information. We are conceptualizing life. Okay, And this has some outcomes that we have to discuss later, of course. And what I want to emphasize is that this new artwork, this new art form, let's say, tries basically to use code, but because of a purpose, because the names are really important. The name Melanitis that Linnaeus gave to the butterfly means literally, etymologically, the one that does not have so much contact with light, is hiding a little in the dark. And the idea was realized some years after the initial conceptualization. Okay. I also produced a lot of texts after it and a lot of studies. Here, for example, we can see a very nice detail of Hieronymus Bosch's work, where we have this hybridic creature, but we cannot be sure if this creature that is reading a book which comes to logic, comes to rationalism, let's say, at this historic period. We are not sure if it's an animal that goes closer to humans or a human going down to the ladder to each animal origins. So this is the important, always to be in between these questions. So in my painting, I also use some techniques very specific, also in painting, etc. And other works, for example, could be to paint Leda on the wing with a very precise brush. I made sometimes these brushes on my own. This is a Rubiev one, a Russian one, very good. But sometimes I produce them myself with only one hair. So basically, you can start declaring again that I'm an artist. I'm a painter, basically. So let me now proceed to the video to see the whole project from the start. And it's a little like a small timetable. This is the adult butterfly that, this is a male one actually, the biggest one that I achieved to have in the lab after the procedure. You see here also, it's the physical information exchanges between organisms that is really important. Exchanging information by means of the code means there is something in common, that we also exchange something that is the basically the same language of DNA. So as I told you, it was to misexpress a protein. This was the technique. Okay, and we can see here a little about the procedure. This is a female. This is a female, the largest female I succeeded to have in the lab. So, as an overview, we spoke about words, the importance of the name Melanitis that inspired me to make this genetic interchange. So in reasoning about the relationship of words and objects, Antiphon the sophist makes a unique conception that nothing real corresponds to the name of the object, leaving onomatology in the realm of pure chance, which means, in simple words, that you can name a cat as a cat, but this gives nothing to the cat really. While true knowledge becomes inaccessible. Name correctness becomes a key point for Antiphon and should be under survey. And he says, names can be erroneous. The concepts we use are not delimited by the exact way objects are. So the surname Melanitis derives from the Greek root melas, which means dark, deprived of light. a property probably attracted Linnaeus in naming the inspected butterfly, because he saw obviously that these butterflies preferred to stay in the dark, in the shades. Now the procedure, the technicalities were really quite difficult, but after some years of research, etc., I managed to receive it and install in the over. You see the small tree branches here. And after some days, day 10 was the first one to come out. If you see here, they become a little dark, and then they explode on it. What was really important is that after living some days with them, you are really get in touch with something you never expect to have these insects so close to your everyday thoughts and ideas about philosophy, and something emerges from it. So of course, you cannot be proud to survive, to have them survive many days. Just a few days after, you can see here, for example, the left one, which is not fully grown. The second one, as I told you, is the female, and the right one is also and these are also females, and this is a male. So you can see, for example, this is a mid-grown because of the temperatures in the room were not ideal. They were free to fly in my lab, actually. And here there are some issues of the laboratory process where I gave my blood, and it was stored. Here are the instructions of the process for those that are interested a little more on biology procedures. And I just have to say that it was realized partly in Europe and finally in Asia, and it came back to me by post. And several techniques can be applied to have a similar procedure. Of course, you have to choose one, because it's not so easy to do in the labs. You have to choose one and proceed. And even if not all of the species had what you expect, you know that the procedure has been finalized because of the outcome. It could be also repeated in the future, I guess, but it depends. If you want to do more things, it's so much effort to realize something so complex like this. I also made a small diary with them, watching them. It's all day, and here is the sample in the lab. We made also some other tests afterwards. And I have here also to show you some live examples of them. Okay. So let me show to the camera. So this is a bigger one. Let me show you now. If you can see here the size, for example. Okay, of the female, and then you can see how smaller is the non-grown one. And also two of them that really small. Actually, when I learned about traveling, I was thinking that if I had to come to Russia, it would be the lightest artwork ever produced. Some 0 grams. It's quite well preserved after this years, you can see also. And here is a miss. These ones never came out actually. You can also see the cotton that supported the structure. Here some highest quality photos from the procedure in the lab again. As you saw. And you can see that it's really playing dead, and then little by little starting to move so silently and quietly existing near the that was my presentation. I'd like to thank you very much for the occasion to present, Leda.